Nation. Thanks you for volunteering your services during this dark time.
Hey, this is Mitch. Please leave a message and I'll get right back to you.
Please, tell me you're okay. I need you. I love you.
In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Wake up! Wake up!
I'll keep trying. I'll keep trying.
If you find your husband, I hope you understand what that could mean.
The odd ones that do come back online are docile.
Oh my God.
I can assure you, you have nothing to fear.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode and another year of Fresh Cuts. That's right, it's our first 2026 episode, and if you're wondering why the title does not say Top 10 Movies of 2025, it's because we had a scheduling issue to push it back probably just a week, and this is just one of those years where it kind of coincides with January, I think, having at least like one horror movie release every week this month. So we didn't want to not like start right out of the gate covering what's actually being released. So it probably means maybe next week we'll have two releases. We'll figure that out. That's like logistics stuff. But don't worry, the top 10 episode is coming soon. But we didn't want to put off doing like actual new releases either. So the first episode of 2026 is actually a proper 2026 episode. With me, as always, you should be familiar with first Mr. Venom. How's it going, Venom?
Greetings and salutations, lovelorn zombies. Well, I actually started 2026 with a cold, so I'm starting to feel more like myself today. Thankfully, I actually sound like myself, so I'm on the road to recovery. But yeah, other than starting the new year sick, I'm doing all right. How the hell are you doing, Mike?
I'm doing good. I feel like today, this Monday, what would be like the 5th, it feels like more my actual new year because with kids, they get the 2 weeks of holidays off, and then I'll usually try to use PTO to fill in some of the gaps to have some time off. But once the first weekend of the new year is over and it's like kind of back to like the regular work week, the kids are back in school. Today is like where, okay, it feels like the actual new year, but everything's going pretty well, all things considered. Also with us, you should also be familiar with, it's Don and Nelly. What's up, Don?
What's going on? Always happy to be here.
All right, so this first week of January, we actually had two releases, but one of them is more a psychological thriller. I don't know if my co-hosts have seen both yet. I was able to, like I said, because I had a bunch of days off from work, so I was able to get to the theater. So we decided, I mean, it wasn't really a hard decision anyway. It just makes more sense. Go with the one that's actually more a horror movie of the two. And with that, we are talking We Bury the Dead for this episode. And let's see, we'll go to IMDb. After a catastrophic military disaster, the dead don't just rise, they hunt. Kinda, I don't know. But Ava searches, Ava searches for her missing husband, but what she finds is far more terrifying. All right, this is going to be an interesting one because we'll get into it with our general thoughts and maybe in the spoilers, but I don't want to like set anything up yet before our general thoughts. But Venom, let's hear your general thoughts on We Bury the Dead.
Well, it's interesting that we start 2026 with one of the most mismarketed movies I've seen since It Comes at Night. And mind you, I loved It Comes at Night. It actually made my top 10 that year. But this one, and folks, as you all know, I don't watch trailers, so I didn't know what this movie really was going into it. I had no idea that it was going to be a zombie horror film. So I was actually mildly excited in the first like 5 to 10 minutes of the film. But then once you're maybe, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes into the film, you realize this is just a drama masquerading as a horror film. And that just really kind of irks me because I'm not the biggest fan of dramas. I don't seek out dramatic films for the most part. I understand that they're usually the most acclaimed and the most award-winning, genre of film out there, but just life is drama. If I want drama, I can just go to work, So yeah, I want to see a zombie apocalypse. I want to see the Sadness 2.0 more than anything. But unfortunately, that is not what we got with We Bury the Dead. Like I said, a very slow-paced, dramatic film about a woman looking for her husband who has been lost in the middle of I dare not even say zombie apocalypse necessarily because it's isolated just to the island of Tasmania, which is on the southeast coast of Australia. For those who don't know, the island has an approximate population of about 500,000. We find out that through some kind of accident with the US military and some of their bioweapon technology that they accidentally release, or maybe not so accidentally, tested a new, weapon that basically wipes out the entire island of Tasmania. And ultimately, the story starts out really interesting. I like the whole thing about anything with a fully functioning brain basically just shut off. It's not like heads exploded. It's not like, it just literally, it was almost like an EMP for electronics, but this was for human brains, or not just human brains, mammalian brains. Like I said, any mammal, anything with a fully functioning brain, basically just turns off, just falls over. And then we find out that a small percentage of them actually get back up. And of course, they have the traditional aspects of zombies. But this is a very odd movie, especially if we're just talking about the zombie element. We'll get into that a little bit later. But honestly, this didn't even have to be a zombie movie. This could have been some viral movie. It could have been animals run amok. It could have, like the actual horror element of this movie is secondary. The main element of this movie is Daisy Ridley's search for her missing husband. And that's where it kind of loses me, because as we go along through the movie, we find out more and more about this couple, and they just become less and less likable to me as the movie goes along. So by the time we actually get to the third act, I just don't care anymore. I don't care if she finds her husband. I don't care about any reveals that we might get. And the movie ends up ending on a type of ending that'll make drama fans happy. Like if you're into drama, dramatic movies, this ending might make you happy because it definitely has emotional closure. But if you're watching this movie as a horror fan, you're going to fucking hate this ending, because I did. I'm just like, what? Like, that's how it ends? Like, that's my zombie apocalypse? There you go. All right. Well, okay. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't say too many good things about the movie. Yes, the performances are great. Daisy Ridley is, as good as she always is, Star Wars movies notwithstanding, but anything else I've ever seen her in, her performances are always great. She doesn't really star in a lot of movies that, are big budget, blockbusters other than Star Wars, like I said. So, but she's always solid, and I'll give her that. Brenton Thwaites as her kind of cohort throughout the majority of the film, I thought he does a great job as well. But ultimately, like I said, other than the two performances of our main stars, the only other thing I can really praise about this movie is going to be its cinematography. This movie has gorgeous cinematography, some of the nicest shots I've seen in a very long time. I mean, some beautiful overhead crane shots, some really long shots where the camera's just kind of staring into the distance. And then after like a minute or so, the subjects will actually walk into frame. So it definitely comes off as very artistic. The problem is, I walked into this thing thinking that it was a horror film. And if I would have watched the trailer ahead of time, I would have walked out of this theater just pissed off as hell, because I did end up watching the trailer after I saw the film. And I'm just like, that is not the movie I just watched. The movie in this trailer is not the fucking movie I just sat through in theaters. And I said this when It Comes at Night came out. When these filmmakers mismarket their films, they're missing their target audience. The target audience for this film is not horror fans, it is drama fans. But the thing is, if they see the trailer for this movie, they'll just be like, it's just another shitty zombie movie, and then they'll never watch it. So it's like, I don't understand why the filmmakers would want to mismarket it and then completely miss their target audience. It just doesn't make sense to me. So I'm just going to say the long and the short of it is, it's a well-made movie, fairly well acted. It's got a serviceable score. It's got some beautiful cinematography. The zombie effects, what little we actually get, are decent. They're nice, juicy zombies. I did like the teeth gritting thing. I thought the sound design was actually really well done too, with the whole teeth gritting thing, with them kind of just grinding their teeth whenever they're just standing around. There are elements of the film that I like, but they're few and far between. So yeah, unfortunately, I can't really give this too much of a thumbs up as a horror fan. Now, as a general cinephile, yes, like I said, there's stuff here if you're into these kinds of movies. But ultimately, if you're looking for the movie that the trailer advertised, this isn't it, unfortunately. So yeah, I kind of regret picking this one over The Plague, because I just thought this one would be a little bit more horror. I actually will be watching The Plague in a couple of days on Wednesday. Wednesday is my next day off, so I'm going to go ahead and check out The Plague and hope that actually gives the start of 2026 a little bit more of a boost, because if this is the first movie that, and obviously it is the first movie I watched in 2026, but yeah, we're not off to a great start, unfortunately. A very mismarketed film that misses its target audience completely. As a horror fan, I just can't really recommend this one. I mean, if you're a completionist and you like to get your annual numbers up, obviously there's only 2 or 3 horror films out right now. So I'd say, if you have to watch something, I guess this is it. But ultimately, it's not a bad film. It's just not a good horror film. And that's what we care about here on this show. So yeah, I'll leave it at that and just say, if you're a drama fan, go see it. If you're a horror fan, wait for streaming and make your decision then. But ultimately, it left me completely unsatisfied as a zombie horror fan. So yeah, I'll go ahead and turn it back to Mike.
Okay, let's move on over to Dawn. What are your thoughts on We Bury the Dead?
I'm not really going to have much else to add, because I'm pretty much right alongside with Venom on this one. I like the premise of this one. I think there's some potentially enjoyable elements here. The idea of trying to invade this strange disease that kind of brings the dead back to life. They're kind of roaming the countryside, but they're not really like dangerous or threats. Trying to secure this strange go on this like mystical journey kind of a thing. I think that could have worked. The technical qualities fantastic all around. I don't have any issues there. It's just 10 15 minutes in, this kind of drops the zombies and they're not really that big of a deal. I mean, there's like a few encounters here and there. You do get the sense that if they were to unleash themselves to their fullest extent, they'd be this huge threat that would rip people to pieces, and it kind of adds like a suspense tinge there. But yeah, by and large, there's just so little of that on board here. The relationship that develops between her and the companion, not that interesting. The relationship that develops between, her and her missing husband, not that interesting. Yeah, it's really kind of hard to find much as a horror fan to talk about because it's really not. There's so few encounters. They're barely a threat. I mean, the potential is there, but yeah, the potential is pretty much all we have here. It looks good. The effects are great when we get them. We just need more of it, and the focus on it not being full on horror and it being this relationship drama, which ultimately turns out to be not that interesting anyway. I think that just kind of makes the film feel, plotting and far longer than it really is. I can't imagine as genuine genre fans who are, far more likely to get like their zombie fix on, you know, far more low budget and, basically like, C and D level films that, you can pick up on Tubi or any other service like that will probably be far more worthwhile in the long run. Which, like I said, if you're a fan of this kind of a style, it's probably going to be a lot more appealing. But yeah, just if you're a straight up genre fan and all you're wanting is, the blood and guts, the intensity, the violence, it's just not there. And I can't really say it's one that I regret watching, but it's just one that if you're gonna be doing this kind of a story, you need more zombie action to kind of put the mission in jeopardy. And there's just not none of that. Like I said, the idea is there, but if they went with more of a horror route, I mean, like Venom said, this could potentially have been anything. Like this could have just been like a genuine natural disaster kind of a film, and her husband's away, and some hurricane hits and breaks a dam in the area, and she's got to go rescue him. Like the film could literally have been that, and we wouldn't have had any real issues outside of like maybe 2 or 3 encounters with zombies. And you can rewrite those into being, like strange encounters with the local aborigines or something like that. And the film would be no different. So, I mean, that's just like one example. I'm sure there's probably going to be others out there that think the same way, but yeah, it's just as a horror film, you just don't have much to grab onto. And I don't really want to spoil the ending just because we're not there yet. But yeah, it's kind of underwhelming and really just kind of takes the wind out of the sails even further. As a whole, yeah, there's just not much here to talk about. I mean, I wish that, 2026 could have ended on a better note or started on a better note, but yeah, I guess we're 0 for 1, but yeah, I don't have much else to say. So I guess back to you, Mike.
Okay. Um, so how can, I guess I'll come at it from a little different angle, only in the fact that like I don't mind, I guess that to me the horror is mostly like in the table setting in this movie. Generally speaking, I don't mind that a movie has like heavy drama overtones or deviates from horror, but that I still don't think this movie was that good. I I really like the setup. Okay, kind of like the idea behind what's going on. It's definitely not like a zombie apocalypse movie. This is like a controlled accident slash event that happened that affected a certain region. It's almost like more 28 days later, but even more confined than like a virus. This is very controlled, very fixed, and our main characters are going in for cleanup duty. That's basically the table setting. I know it sounds like a spoiler, but we learned this within like the first 5 minutes of the movie. So um I think it like sets up a really cool premise for like possibilities of once they get to the location. The problem is once they get there, I think as like Dawn and Venom both said, we get a couple scenarios where we get some cool looking like makeup, but we don't really learn much about the the effects. It's like, okay, we learn a certain amount of people do this, but we don't really get much of a sample size of it to like know, is it random? Is there something sinister behind it? Um and then yeah, it kind of changes the type of movie it is. And in theory, I don't mind that because like I do like drama movies. I mean, I'm a fan of like all genres, but when a movie kind of sets something up and then if you're going to deviate away from kind of what you prepared the viewers for, it needs to be really good in doing that. And I just thought that like it kind of slowly burned its goodwill as the movie went on. This also features I know it seemed like 2025 there was a lot of movies that featured Venom's dreaded hated tropes. Well, we're starting out 2026 with one trope that I hate that I'll save for the spoiler discussion. Um but yeah, I mean, I would still say the movie is like it's a decent to good movie. I just think it was setting up something that like could have been really good, and it ended up kind of just being like, maybe average to above average. Probably not something that is gonna like stick with me throughout the year as like in my memory of like, oh, I gotta revisit that movie. The cast is fine. I mean, the what we get from the script or what they do with their materials fine. I just I think there was like a lack of interesting story here. Once we kind of get beyond like what the main premise is and we get into like specific character motivation and it's just like, really, is this how like the rest of the movie is going to play out? And then, I feel like when we run into like a character later on in the movie, it feels very like borrowed from a similar movie with like the evil dreaded military guy, but like we'll get in that later. But yeah, I don't know. I don't even know to say where I am compared to you guys on the movie. I just think it's like an okay average movie. I wouldn't say it's bad. I didn't come away from the theater thinking, oh, this is a bad movie. It was just like an okay movie. And maybe it's because I saw The Plague the same day. I think I saw The Plague second, and I left the movie theater from that one like, this is a fantastic movie. The problem is like for a horror show, that one I would say probably psychological thriller. So like obviously we're not gonna talk about it on Fresh Cuts, but like it doesn't help when you see two movies and you think just one is like leaps and bounds better. But I try to put that aside. Yeah, this was an okay movie. Some people will probably like it more. But I would say definitely don't go into it expecting like a zombie apocalypse movie because it's very much not that kind of movie. And I'll leave it there for the moment. So back to you, Venom.
And another thing that bothered me about this movie is that despite it not really being a true zombie apocalypse, they still added that zombie trope that I fucking am sick of. And that's the trope of humans are more dangerous than the zombies. Because, yes, there is a little bit of a side story here where one of our characters ends up getting connected with, like Mike said, a military character, and then of course that character turns out to be a complete psycho. And it's just the whole time that we're at that location, when we're at the military guy's house, I'm just rolling my eyes, just waiting for the hammer to fall. And of course, the hammer does eventually fall. Maybe not in the way I thought it would, but still, it definitely did. And it just turns into that same old trope over again. And it's like, I don't know. I didn't. Now, granted, again, like I said, I don't watch trailers, so it's not like I knew what I was in for. I didn't even, like I said, I didn't even know it was a zombie movie going into it. I just knew, We Bury the Dead. It's considered a body horror, monster horror, zombie horror film. So I'm like, okay, that sounds like it might be a little bit more interesting than the other option we had. But as far as interest goes, I can already tell you I'm probably going to like The Plague more than this one. just because, like I said, and I think we all kind of agree, this isn't a bad movie. We've all said it. It's not a bad movie. It's a well-made film. It's beautiful to look at, decent score, really good sound design. It's just, if you come here wanting to see the movie that was advertised in the trailer, you are going to be sorely disappointed. So, yeah, I'm not sure what else we can really say. There is one really interesting scene that I thought was probably the most original thing that they did in this movie, and that was with a family of zombies that we run into about halfway through the film. Obviously, I won't spoil that right now, but that was probably the most interesting scene in the entire film to me. Not necessarily a violent or gory scene. Actually, it's more of a heartfelt, emotional scene, but it does involve zombies. So I thought that was kind of interestingly done. As that scene ended, I actually, kind of gave a little golf clap because like I said, it was just something that I don't remember ever seeing before, and I enjoyed it. But then from there, the movie is just all downhill. Like once she actually gets to the resort, and that's the other thing too, just the fucking premise of an American woman volunteering to go to Tasmania to be a cadaver collector and to help bury these dead people with the sole purpose of trying to find her husband in the middle of ground zero where this, whole thing started. Just wow. Just I just like, I'm even shocked. And they even made the comment in the movie that they were surprised that they allowed Americans to come down here to do this, because I thought the same thing. Why would you allow foreigners to come here to your zombie, destroyed island and potentially let some bad people in there that might try to do some fucked up shit? It just doesn't make sense. Like, aren't there enough Australians who want to go to Tasmania to help out? Nah, let's get some Americans in here too. And by the way, that's all we see is Americans and Australians. I don't see any Italians, any Spaniards, any French. Literally, it's just Americans and Aussies. That's it.
You would think that even if they were going to allow Americans like as volunteers, that there's going to be some type of vetting process to say you can't if like you have relatives or spouses or kid, like, because we don't want like the emotional aspect of it planning, because this is straight up cleanup duty. This isn't like search and rescue like at least from like the small amount of characters we get in this movie. They're not going to like investigate and we need to see what's going on. No, they are already like pretty much 100% sure what they're gonna find when they get in there and what the solution once they find it. So like the fact, and that's another thing, is like our main character so adamant that like, no, well, I guess we can get into that in spoilers, because I had a problem with that too.
I had a few problems with this movie, but yeah, I think we all did anyway. I don't really have much more to add that wouldn't be spoiler territory. I don't know if either of you guys want to add anything before we get into it.
Yeah, I'm good.
It looks pretty, I guess, so I can give it credit for that.
Yeah, like I said, there's some gorgeous shots, absolutely beautiful shots in here. I mean, some of the nicer shots I've seen outside of like an Oz Perkins movie, I mean, it's just some beautiful cinematography. But unfortunately, that's just not enough to carry this film. I don't know any film where the cinematography is enough to carry it. So yeah, I guess let's get into our spoiler discussion. Now, we're not going to do a full-on walkthrough, since personally, I don't really think this movie even deserves one. But let me just set up the premise of the film. We already know that obviously a military, accident happened off the southern coast of Tasmania, killing all, pretty much every animal on the island. By the way, I did like how they were very careful to not. Did you notice that there were no birds in this movie whatsoever? No animals, no anything. And I thought they, because I don't know where the movie was filmed, if it was actually filmed in Tasmania or Aussie or wherever. But I would imagine that there's going to be creatures around. So whether they had to CGI them out or just, try to find filming locations where there were no creatures, I thought that at least it kind of gets you in the spirit of it, knowing that, yes, there's nothing alive on this island that didn't fly in recently, like I said, the military, the rescue workers, things like that. So Anyway, what we find out early in the film is that a small percentage of the creatures that died, of the people that died on this island, are getting up. And ultimately, they're not dangerous at first. Like when they first get up, and we actually see this with the first zombie that we see in the movie, they almost have a confused look on their face. Like it's not aggressive. It's literally like almost scared. Like they don't know what's going on. But as I mentioned earlier, they're gritting their teeth, which I absolutely love the sound design behind that, especially later in the film when we start getting into, later on, we find out that the zombies that have been awake longer become more aggressive the longer that they're around. They don't give us any explanation why. In fact, we get no explanation of this virus in any way, shape, or form. There's no ending to the whole zombie story. Like literally when the movie ends, the whole apocalypse thing is still happening. The only real part of the story that ends is Daisy Ridley's, character, Eva, whatever her name was. Her story basically gets an emotional closure at the end, but that's about it. Like even her partner, like what happens to him? We don't know. Like he's there at the end, but what's going to happen after this? Apparently the filmmakers don't care that much, and they assume that we don't care as the audience, which they're wrong in some cases.
I saw this like way back, I think on Thursday. I forgot. I'm assuming you saw it a little more recent. Do you remember? Did they describe at all the type of like weapon testing? Was it like some type of sonic thing or EMP or?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm saying virus, but ultimately it might not even be a virus. Like
because it's obviously not nuclear, because then they can't go.
No, exactly. But obviously, and considering that everything with a brain just pretty much checked out at the exact same time, I liked how there's cars, kind of sprawn throughout the landscape. There's planes in the water, because obviously if a plane full of people just happen to be above Tasmania, they're all going to die, and that plane's coming right down. So I thought that was mildly interesting.
And so I guess technically, because now that I'm thinking about it more, because it's just been a minute since it's been on my mind. I guess all the people affected, they're not technically dead. It's almost like a lobotomy where they're just kind of like still. So it's not like they're dead and then becoming undead like an actual zombie, or did they not really get into
No. They said that they were dead, flat out. You can't live without a brain. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if your brain shuts down, that's it. You're dead. Like you can't. That's the whole brain dead thing. But these things aren't even brain dead. They're flat dead. All their organs stopped working. They are dead. So this is a true zombie movie. I mean, these are reanimated corpses. So by my definition of zombie, these are zombies. They die, they come back, but it's only a small percentage. Like they don't even tell us what percentage of these guys get back up.
Yeah,
is it 5%? I mean, nothing.
Because if that's the case, then to me it makes the main Daisy Ridley's character, I forgot her name at the moment, but it makes her motivations even like more ridiculous, because it's like, okay, either you're gonna run into your husband and he's not gonna wake up, or he's gonna wake up a zombie. Like, what makes you think you're gonna bring him back from the brink of like being undead? Like you're not gonna cure him, so like you're not gonna get closure. Like a zombie husband is not gonna talk to you, and you guys are gonna work out like what ended the marriage and all that. So it's like, what are you doing here?
Exactly. And once we get the reveal that this couple isn't actually all that happy together, like for the first act and a half of the film, all the flashbacks that we get of Ava and her husband are all happy. It's like their wedding, their honeymoon, various vacations that they've taken. Like everything is happy. It's about halfway through the film that we start seeing that they're arguing, that they're having trouble getting pregnant. And then eventually later on, we find out that Daisy Ridley's character actually cheated on her husband right before he left for this trip. Oh, and by the way, the reason that her husband is in southern Tasmania is because it's a work retreat. Apparently, this company that he works for, they go to a different country every year for their retreat. And this year, they just happened to pick Tasmania, the one place that they didn't want to be, but there you go. So, excuse me. So yeah, like I said, just her motivation, just once we find out all that, it makes her motivation even dumber to me. You know what I mean? It just doesn't make, this isn't a loving, doting wife who's looking for the love of her life. You know, this is a woman who wants to, basically, she's a woman who wanted to finish an argument so badly that she traveled into a zombie war zone to finish an argument. That's how I look at it. I know it's a very bleak way of looking at it, but to me, that's how I saw it. She was in the middle of an argument when her husband left, and she wanted to finish the argument so badly that she traveled halfway across the fucking world into a zombie war zone to then yell at her husband's dead body. You know what I mean? It just, God, the motivation just really pissed me off.
Yeah, I mean, Clay, the main guy, his motivation was at least a little better, you know?
Oh, his was perfect. I mean, yeah, his wife and daughter think he's a loser, so he did this to try to show that, you know, see, I'm not useless, I can be helpful, and, you know, trying to be a little bit of a hero, which to an extent, he kind of is. Not that anybody will ever know, other than Daisy Ridley, but, you know, what are you going to do? But yeah, I mean, God, where do we go from here? I guess let's just go to the scene that I fucking hated the most.
Okay, and then I'll tell you the trope I hate, unless it's the same one, but you can go first.
Well, I already talked about the trope that I hate. The whole humans are more dangerous than zombies in an apocalypse. Like, I'm so sick of that fucking trope. It's like The Walking Dead perfected it. Anybody who does it after that, you're just being fucking pedantic, and I don't care, you know? Just stop it. Be original, for fuck's sake.
Well, especially,
but anyway, yeah.
Especially in a movie like this, because, like, I understand, like, obviously, if you have any loved ones that were involved in this and were killed by it, yes, of course, we understand your emotional state and all that. But this isn't like a zombie apocalypse that has ended the entire world. It was like a catastrophic accident, of course, but in some ways, it's like in over the long term, you will still be able to live and recover and have some type of life. Now, I know, I mean, that sounds kind of like, I guess, cold for people that have lost their loved ones, but like, this is a different scale. A lot of times in the zombie apocalypse movies or shows, it's because there literally is no actual world left, and like these emotions get bottled up over the course of like months and years. So like when you run into like other humans, these people have been living with like this trauma and damage for like a long time, and it builds up, and then they act out in the wrong way because of that. But I mean, this is like, I think this is like not even that far after the accident had happened, that this, so it's like this military dude went this schizo this quick, and like is asking like the stuff he's like requesting of her, and then like, no, you didn't do it right, we got to do. I was like, God damn, dude, maybe you were mentally screwed up before any of this happened, because that seemed crazy.
Yeah. So, you know, as we've kind of alluded to, Ava and her partner Clay, they kind of leave the cleanup party to go to this town south of Ground Zero. I guess Hobart is the name of the town that was like Ground Zero, but south of there is a town called Woodbridge, which is where the resort is that her husband is at. So, of course, her and Clay decide to, you know, they separate from the party. Clay steals a motorcycle, a really nice Ducati too. And then they just start going south. Well, of course, as they go, they have run-ins with zombies. They end up going through a town that's like practically on fire. It's like there's just smoke everywhere, like to the point where they can't see, they can't breathe. They end up stopping to try to find like some breathing equipment, and that's when they end up getting caught by Riley, this military guy. He realizes that they're not supposed to be there, so he basically kind of sort of arrests them. He basically puts them in rooms, locks them into rooms. At one point, Clay says he has to go to the bathroom, but while he goes to the bathroom, he, of course, escapes, leaving Riley alone with Ava. Riley decides to tell Ava, okay, I'll take you to Woodbridge. I'll give you safe passage, but you have to promise that you're not going to try to escape. And, which, kind of a stupid thing to say. I'm already questioning Riley's motivations. But yeah, he basically ends up going, they go to his house, his actual farmhouse, where we find out that his fucking wife, who is a zombie, is still there at his house. Totally just she's a zombie, but she's obviously one of the newer zombies because she's very calm, she's not aggressive, and she's pregnant. And that's the other thing, is that she's fucking pregnant. And Riley is convinced that the baby inside of her is still alive because he says that he can feel it kicking, blah blah blah. And then that's when the request starts, and basically Riley asks Ava to put on one of his wife's dresses, put on her wedding ring, and wear some of her perfume so that he could dance with her. Now, come on, people. Like, that's not going to turn into a fucking rape scenario, for fuck's sake. But of course, Ava, being kind of at the will of Riley at this point, concedes. But of course, Ava herself is married, and she refuses to take off her wedding ring, which causes a big friction between Riley. Like, they have a dance, but then when Riley realizes that she's not wearing his wife's wedding ring, he says that she ruined it and that she has to do it again. Of course, he becomes violent. She ends up escaping the farmhouse, going into the barn, and finding that this fucking guy has a bunch of zombies chained up in his barn. Now, why does he have these zombies there? I have no fucking idea, because it's not like you can get killed and become a zombie in this world. You had to have died, from this military attack, whatever it was, and then you're reanimated. So, like I said, the rules of this zombie apocalypse are very weird. We never ever see a zombie bite a living person. So we don't really find out if this thing is even communicable in any way.
Yeah, we technically don't even, because I want to say every time there was a confrontation between one of these zombies and a human, they were killed before anyone actually got attacked. Am I correct? Well, did we have any zombies actually take out humans in this? I'm trying to remember.
Not a one.
Yeah,
not
so
a fucking one.
Yeah, so we don't even know the aggressive nature of some of them, which is a low percent. We don't even know, because obviously the traditional zombie wants to eat you. The rage virus zombie just wants to attack you and turn you. But these ones, we never got escalation enough to know what their motivation once returning from the dead.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they give us that one throwaway line that the longer they're awake, the more aggressive they get. And we do eventually see, in the trailer, there's that scene where a zombie attacks Daisy Ridley's character and kind of chases her through a broken down bus. We get that in the movie, but it really has no bearing on anything, unfortunately. The attack just kind of ends.
All those chained up zombies, we don't really know what the hell's going on with that, because I don't even know if that's a soldier guy's house or if they just fled there during the melee of everything, and he just has her kind of hold up there in the bedroom, and if he's even the one that chained those zombies there, or if someone that's kind of a mystery too. It's a cool looking set piece when we get down there, because some of the effects with the eyes, when you get a little bit of light and then it goes dark, it's cool looking. But then when you think about it, it's what is the purpose of this other than it looks creepy, which is nice, but they don't really do much with it.
Exactly. Yeah, it like I said, this whole scene just felt like a detour that didn't need to happen. Eventually, of course, Ava is able to escape. She ends up stabbing Riley in the neck, killing him. She gets in his Jeep, and as she turns on the Jeep, we see Riley's wife standing outside in the driveway, and she's just standing there, very docile, not attacking. and she's actually holding her stomach, her pregnant stomach, like, most pregnant women do. They kind of, just always rubbing their belly or whatever. And she's doing that too. And she doesn't attack. She just kind of turns around and walks away. So obviously she's a newer zombie. She just woke up recently, maybe. And so she's not very aggressive yet. And then Daisy just leaves and goes on her merry way. Now, the scene that I was talking about earlier that I really, really like is after this, after she escapes from Riley's house and the Jeep that she's driving runs out of gas, she ends up walking the rest of the way. It's like I think she ends up walking like the last 20 miles to the resort. While she's walking there, she runs into an RV pulled off on the side of the road. She goes into the RV and she sees that there's a family of 4, all dead. None of them are moving. None of them have gotten up. So she pulls all the bodies out. She covers them up with sheets very respectfully, and then she locks herself in the RV for the night. She figures, I'll take advantage and get some sleep, and then I'll pick up my walk in the morning. Well, during the evening, she starts hearing noises outside the RV. She ends up getting out of the RV and realizing that there's someone walking on the other side of the RV. And then when she looks down at the family of 4, one of them has gotten up. There's only 3 bodies on the floor now. So she starts to freak out, thinking that she might get attacked soon. But then she starts hearing the sound of digging. And what we find is that the patriarch of the family, the dad of the zombie family, has started digging a fucking grave for his family. Let me repeat that, my friends. A zombie starts digging a grave for his dead family. Now, Daisy gets his attention, and the zombie turns around and looks at her, but doesn't attack, just kind of looks at her, and then turns around and continues digging. When Daisy realizes that he's not going to attack her, she fucking helps him. She grabs another shovel and starts helping the zombie dig a hole big enough for the whole family to get in there. And she even helps him carry the bodies into the shallow grave that they just dug. Now, what I find interesting is that once the dad zombie finishes digging up the hole and they've pulled the other 3 members of the family into the hole, he then turns around with his back to Daisy and falls to his knees in the pit, almost like he's giving Ava permission to kill him so that he can join his family. Literally, this zombie had the wherewithal to dig a pit for him and his family and then allow himself to be killed by Daisy so that they could all be buried together. So like I said, during the non-spoiler section, this is something that I don't remember really ever seeing in a zombie movie. I mean, we've seen elements of that, like in Wormwood, in those Wormwood movies from Australia, where we see humans and zombies working together, but not like this, where they have like a quiet understanding that, Ava knows that this zombie's not going to attack her. Yeah. So she decides to help him. I thought it was interesting.
So that's another thing that I was thinking about in like kind of the aftermath of seeing it, like the cognitive ability, I guess. I don't, because I know they made the point to say, hey, the ones that have been asleep or dead longer, when those ones wake up, they're more aggressive. So I guess we're also supposed to connect that to the fact that like some of them that wake up have a little more like cognitive awareness or ability, because yeah, I got that too from the scene when the dad, he was like burying the grave, and when he got in it, to me he was like messaging to her like, yeah, we belong dead, but I don't have the ability to like do it myself, so here I'm gonna lean down in here and you finish me off and then bury us. So to me it's like, okay, well then some of them have a cognitive ability. Like it seemed a little all over the place, and almost like, well, it would be convenient for like the scenes they wanted to put in the movie for the story. Right. Because that's why I was a little confused. Like, well, what are we supposed to believe? Unless I mean, unless in the overall scheme of things, the whole point is like they don't know because it's so soon after that they don't have all the answers, so we don't have all the answers either. Maybe that's how we're supposed to take it too.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought the only purpose for this scene, as far as at face value, it almost felt like it was giving Ava hope that maybe if she found her husband and he was one of the few who stood up, that he would be like this guy, where he would have some kind of cognitive thought and wouldn't attack her and maybe even would just like go with her, which obviously, how's that going to work? It's not like you're going to put him on a plane to America. The fucking military is going to shoot him long before that happens. So again, motivations in this movie are just so questionable. But let's go ahead and get to our final big set piece, and that is when we finally get to the resort. Yes, Ava does finally get to the resort, and she ends up going to the lobby, finding out which room her husband was in, grabbing a spare key, and then going up to that room. And lo and behold, yes, her husband is dead and he has not gotten up. He is just flat dead. But I think the big reveal here is that he wasn't staying in that room by himself. When she walks into that room, there's women's clothes kind of thrown around the room. There's a champagne bottle on the side of the bed and two champagne glasses. One of them has lipstick stains on it. So, we kind of get the reveal that, oh, Daisy cheated on this guy, but it looks like her husband's been cheating on her probably for even longer. He's been going on these retreats for, I think she said 6 years. I think she said her husband's been working at this company for 6 years. So Lord knows how long he's been taking advantage of these retreats to cheat on his wife. But yeah, there it is. She ends up talking to her husband, and like I said, she even ends up starting to yell at him. Like I said, she did all this to finish the argument that was started in America, and which just seems like such a weird motivation. While there, Clay ends up showing up because, obviously Clay knew where she was going. She told them when they were first riding the motorcycle south. So Clay eventually does show up at the resort, sees that her husband is dead. He looks around and also sees that there's women's clothing and the champagne glasses and everything else. So he kind of realizes what Daisy just found out, what Ava just found out about her husband, which, he doesn't make an issue of it. He just kind of leaves it alone. And then they end up just getting drunk that night. They end up turning on music, swimming in the pool, and just drinking to their heart's delight. They end up staying in the same room. I believe they did not hook up. They basically were just staying in the same room so that they could be safe, because the camera pans over to the door, and the door is like barricaded with like furniture and stuff. So it seems like they just decided we'll stay in the same room just for safety's sake. But I don't think they actually hooked up. I think it would have been a little too soon after Daisy found her husband to hop in the sack with another guy, despite, how good looking Clay may be, but it just, yeah. So the next morning, they basically, they give her husband a fucking Viking funeral. Why the fuck did she give him a Viking funeral? Someone needs to explain this shit to me. And for those who don't know what a Viking funeral is, of course, it's where they put the dead body on a boat. They set the boat on fire, and then they push the boat into the ocean, and the body burns along with the boat, and it, falls into the ocean, blah, 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 blah. Why she gave her American husband a Viking funeral is fucking beyond me, especially a guy who didn't really seem to deserve it. It's like once we get the reveal that he's being just as bad, if not worse, as far as his infidelity, because Daisy Ridley only had one affair. She had one hookup, as she calls it. She says she hooked up with somebody. She admitted it to her husband, which, again, why the fuck would you do that? But whatever. And, then he ended up going on his retreat to Tasmania. So there you go, folks. That's the kind of the gist of the movie. Now, the movie ends with one more scene where Clay, after the Viking funeral, Clay and Ava decide to leave. and they end up running into Riley's wife again, but this time her baby bump is gone and she's got a trail of blood coming from between her legs. So obviously, the baby, she was able to push out the baby. Is the baby alive, dead? Is it a zombie? Well, in the distance, we start hearing a baby crying. And again, by the way, Riley's wife, again, is still very docile. Like she sees Daisy and Clay walking towards her, but she just turns around and keeps walking down the street. So, Riley's wife hasn't gotten to that aggressive stage yet. She ends up following the noises of the crying baby, and lo and behold, there is a perfectly healthy human baby, not zombified, just totally alive, just kind of in the rocks. Like basically, the zombie wife gave birth to the baby and just walked away, basically. She ends up grabbing the baby, holding it in her arms, smiling, and then the movie ends, fade to black, and that is the end of it. No post-credits or mid-credits scene. Like I said, the movie gives us the emotional closure, whereas Daisy Ridley's character lost a husband, but she gained the one thing that she had been wanting more than anything, and that was a child. Because, multiple times throughout the movie, we see that she's having trouble getting pregnant with her husband. So
yeah, I don't know about you, but I thought that was a little bit too corny of an ending because, like, okay, there's wife pregnant, this catastrophic event kills you, right? So, I mean, I don't want to be because, like, I'm no medical expert or anything like that, but how how long are we supposed to assume a baby would survive in the womb of a dead mom zombie, I
thank
guess?
you. And that's only half of it too. The other half of it is, how do you know that baby's healthy?
So like
Like,
part of me wonders if like the original ending was like they walk up to the baby with like that glimmer of hope, and then the baby's like mutant zombie baby too, and then maybe they're like, oh, that's too bleak, that's too grim. It just seemed like tonally too like I don't know if they felt like, hey, this is already like dark, we can't let it end even more dark, but it's just that doesn't seem like it fits with like everything we've learned about what's going on so far. Like, what, the baby is just a normal,
yeah,
I'll call it healthy baby because without an actual medical examination, we don't know for
exactly.
sure. But like from the outward looks of the baby, completely normal baby. And I'm like, what? Like,
Yeah,
there's no.
but it just doesn't make any sense that, well, first of all, how is she going to get that baby out of the country? She's never going to be able to get that baby out of the country. What is she going to claim, that she gave birth in Tasmania while collecting cadavers? No, they're going to know that that's not her baby, and the government is going to take it from her. The other thing is, even if that baby is totally healthy and doesn't turn into a zombie, it could still be a carrier. It could still be a carrier of whatever it is that killed all these people. So it just the lack of forethought. And I understand, Ava's heart was broken multiple times throughout this movie, the loss of her husband, the inability to have a child, the breakdown of her marriage, just all of it. But it felt like she was just naively looking, she was looking at this baby with rose-colored glasses, and it just bothered the shit out of me, considering everything that she had witnessed in this movie leading up to this moment. And that she's like, oh yeah, I'll keep this potentially, tainted Tasmanian baby. Why the hell not? It just, so many plot holes in this movie. I mean, when you really, really think about it, on top of the fact that how are they going to reconnect to their unit? Like they're basically fugitives at this point, because they left their unit. So they were warned, do not leave your unit or you would be dealt with, harshly. So
And not only did they leave the unit, like it's not like they just left the unit. They like went to like the zones that I think you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
be.
exactly.
Like,
The southern tip of the island, which was supposedly was like the worst hit of the whole place. So
yeah,
yeah,
the one trope I was gonna bring up, it happens a lot in not just horror movies but movies in general, is the disappearing but reappearing at the right time hero or side
Yeah,
hero.
exactly.
And like, so like in this movie particularly, when so the soldier runs into them, he's doing like the interviews, and like as soon as he gives us like kind of cockamamie explanation of like where, oh, he got away, I'm like, he's coming back. Like it'd be one thing if he was like, I killed, like, oh, we got in a scuffle and like we heard gunshots and like dude was killed. But like as soon as he was like, "Oh, I ran him off," or he escaped, or whatever he said, I was like, "Yeah, there's no way he's not showing back up," and it'll probably be
Mhm.
like at the most opportune. Like I was like, and you know, I know why movies do it, but again, like this movie, it was kind of setting a tone where I'm like, "Don't do that in this movie." Like you're just weak to me. You're kind of like weakening the structure you set up if we just play into that trope, and unfortunately they did. So
And what's funny too is during that whole scene when she gets to the hotel room and realizes that her husband's been cheating, was anybody else waiting for the mistress to show up? Like the zombie mistress was going to like pop out of the bathroom or something? Like, nope, didn't get it. We don't even see her. We see a picture of her. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
and
this movie definitely leaves you like just scratching your head. Like, I don't know what this director wanted to make. Was he trying to make a zombie movie? Was he trying to make like a, a family drama?
well,
I
yeah,
don't
and
know.
that's why I felt like the baby ending felt like tacked on sugar that this type of movie didn't need to do, because like I feel like I'm glad they went the atypical route where she shows up thinking like, oh, I'm gonna rescue my zombie husband, and he just doesn't wake up. And like that's a perfectly valid thing because they already stated at the beginning, like, not everyone, like some people just stay dead. And like I almost felt it would have been cheap for him to wake up, and I thought they were gonna do that. Like not necessarily that she would rescue him, but like he would wake up and whatever they have to do, they do. But I felt like the fact that like he didn't wake up, and then she was kind of questioning, oh, what's going on with this coworker of his, and to me, her not getting the closure with him felt true to the situation, because like, what are the chances that you're gonna get any real closure in this? The dude's dead, or he's gonna wake up a zombie, and you're probably gonna have to murder him, or he's gonna, whatever these things do to people is gonna happen. But the fact that I didn't wake up and it stayed with kind of like that jury unsolved like arc, I was like okay with it, because I was like, all right, that's the type of movie this is. And then to tack on like the, oh, never mind, it's okay because random baby survived somehow
Mhm.
and is a normal health, that just felt like this isn't, you're not supposed to do that for this type of movie. It just felt like too tacked on, too
No, I
neat of an
100%
ending.
agree. 100% agree. Which is, one of the many reasons I'm not a big fan of this film. Like I said, well made, it's pretty to look at, but if you're looking for an interesting story or actual horror, you're not really getting it. So sadly, there's a couple of scattered attacks, but even to call them attacks, like outside of that one that's in the trailer, the black zombie that chases her through the broken down bus, like that's the only true attack in the movie. Like, we get the broken foot zombie who tries to attack Clay and Ava, but then Riley shows up at the exact right time. Like that's the trope. Like that was, I thought that was what you were going to go for when you were talking about the hero showing up at the exact right time. Because literally that zombie was about to eat Ava, and then suddenly a single bullet rings out and the zombie falls. So, but yeah, I totally understand what you mean. Just, as soon, I honestly thought that he had killed Clay when he came back and told Ava that Clay ran off. I was I was like 98% sure that he just killed Clay so that he could be alone with Ava. And then after everything, one of the biggest just issues I have is the fact that Riley was actually right. His baby was alive. And if Riley wasn't a piece of shit and tried to attack Ava, he could have lived out his life with his baby and his zombie wife, I guess. But just really
Well,
irks me
yeah,
that.
yeah, that's a good point because it's like, okay, he he's obviously preserving the wife, maybe because he thinks the wife can be saved too, but obviously because of the baby. So, like, why are you fucking up in this other way towards like, what does Dancing with Ava do for, like, I don't even understand, like, because it's like your dead wife is literally still in the bed. Like, I
Yeah.
don't understand what that's providing him. Again, because we're not talking about a zombie apocalypse that we're like a decade into, right? Where
Yep.
yes, I can understand why that would severely mess people up in the head, but like in this setting, like what is Dancing with Her gonna do when you literally know your wife is in the other room dead? Like
And if you believe that your baby is still alive in there, why not just wait and see? Literally, he had less than 1 day to wait. Less than a day later, his zombie wife gives birth, and he would have had his perfectly healthy living baby to then live out the rest of his days with. But instead, he's got to be this douchebag who wants Ava to basically be his wife. Like, what's funny is that when Ava was changing and she was putting on the wife's clothes, I thought she was going to lay with Riley. I thought the agreement was that they were going to have sex and that it was like Riley's way of having sex one last time with his wife, having Ava wear her clothes, wear her perfume, wear her wedding ring, all of that. But then it just turned out to be a fucking dance. Like all he wanted was a dance, which obviously wasn't the truth.
yeah.
And yeah, I mean, this movie leaves you with more questions than answers, unfortunately. But the problem is, I'm not interested enough to try to find the answers. I just don't care. I'm actually glad that I'm kind of done with this movie for a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, I feel like that's one of the things about this movie. It's like not a zombie apocalypse movie, but they pull a lot of tropes from zombie apocalypse movies into
Mm-hmm.
it, and it doesn't feel like they fit in this specific world and story they've created. And I think that's one of the problems because there's justifications for a lot of this stuff in the other movies we see, but in this one, it just feels like it's kind of thrown in there because it's familiar to like the type of crowd that might be going to see the movie, you know?
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, I say this every time a movie is mismarketed. It's just like, why don't the filmmakers want to advertise to their target audience? If they would have advertised this movie as a dramatic film that just happens to take place around a zombie apocalypse type scenario, maybe you would have gotten, better reviews and you would have gotten the people that you wanted to watch this movie. Because if this director made this movie for horror fans, he failed. He failed miserably, miserably. But if he made this movie for drama fans, then, he mildly succeeded. The problem is, any drama fans who see this trailer are not going to go see this movie. 100%. They're just going to be like, it's a zombie movie. I don't need to see it. So, yeah, I don't know why film makers do this, but I feel like they're cutting into their own bank accounts. Like they're losing profit because they're advertising it poorly. Because then once the movie comes out and the reviews start saying that, hey, this isn't a zombie movie, it's going to get critically panned and it's not going to make the money that you were hoping it would make. So, yeah, I don't know. Filmmakers need to learn a lesson, man. Advertise the movie that you're showing us. Don't advertise another movie and, don't advertise Dawn of the Dead, but then give us Steel Magnolias. Like that doesn't fucking make sense to me. So, yeah, I think that's going to be my final point here. Hopefully a movie I never have to revisit. As much as I like Daisy Ridley, and I genuinely like Daisy Ridley. I like her in everything I've seen her in. I think she's a great actress. This was just not the vehicle for her. So yeah, I'll leave it at that.
All right. Well, we pretty much covered it front to back, with kind of our new hybrid format, and hopefully my cat running over the keyboard doesn't mess anything up here. But
delete.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I mean, Dawn, do you have anything to add before we kind of close this one out?
I was trying to interject a couple of times, but there was very little space for me to add anything new that you guys did. And by the time I could hit the unmute button. So
All
Sorry,
right.
buddy.
yeah, no, it's one of those things where if this one probably would have stuck with a straight drama, I would respect it a little bit more.
Yep.
I mean, I wouldn't have watched it, but I might have respected it as a film a little bit more. As a horror film, yeah, there's just so little here, and everything that you can talk about it revolves around a drama that I'm not interested in. Yeah, there's just very little to talk about here.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's how we will end our discussion on We Bury the Dead. So, yeah, Venom. I mean, I know you've had like a busy holiday season.
Yeah,
Was there anything you got in?
I did want to say earlier that Mike was being generous when he said that there were scheduling conflicts. It was all on me, folks. I know I've already said this ad nauseum over the last few months, but I'm back in the retail scape as far as my career goes, and the holidays absolutely killed me. I did a 14-hour shift on Christmas Eve, and I did a 12-hour shift the day after Christmas. So it cut into my movie watching time so badly that we had to postpone the top 10 show. So yeah, it's solidly on me. This job is making me work just weird hours, but obviously with the holidays over, I should be getting back to a more normalized schedule. Hopefully, no more 2 a.m. starts by any stretch. Back to my normal 5 a.m., which is still ridiculous early, but I mean, 5 a.m. is a treat compared to 2 a.m., so I'll take it. But yeah, look out for our top 10 show next week. My list is almost done. I only have a few more rewatches to do. In fact, today, I went out Funko Pop hunting and I found the OG Wolfman Pop that I had been searching for years. So I think to celebrate that I finally found the Wolfman Pop that I've been looking for, I'm going to go ahead and rewatch The Wolfman, which was technically the first movie to come out in 2025. And I do remember loving it when it came out, but I literally haven't watched it since then. So I guess that'll be my rewatch for tonight. Whether it's definitely a top 10 candidate. It's currently not in my top 10. It's one of those movies that's kind of on the fringe. So hopefully today's rewatch, will either improve it or drop it even farther down. But yeah, definitely all on me that the top 10 show got postponed. So yeah, look out for a double episode next week. As far as anything else from me, not even remotely. The only other thing I've got is the same thing I talked about on the last episode, the latest episode of Creature Comforts, where we looked at Troll 2, the sequel to the great Netflix movie Troll from 3 years ago. That's our latest episode there. Look out for that one. I have no other guest spots to speak of because I've had no real time to do guest spots, sadly. But hopefully that'll change moving forward. But yeah, for now, just Creature Comforts, and I'll let Mike talk about the last episode of the main show and the next episode of the main show. So yeah, that's it for me.
All right. How about you, Don? Anything new?
No. Creature Comforts. I think we're just waiting on schedules to clear up because we know what the movie is. And I mean, it's only the 5th of the month, so we got plenty of time to get that new one recorded. One of the shows, I was supposed to have guested on like 2 or 3 shows in January. One of those is pushed back until February, so I can't say much about that. One, I genuinely haven't heard from the guy that we're supposed to record with, and we're supposed to record this coming Friday because he said the first full Friday of the month. So hopefully, I know what we're doing. Otherwise, maybe that one will fall through in the future. And the other one is being pushed back until the end of the month. So currently, just waiting on fresh cuts.
All right, cool. As far as I go, the only real thing I've done over the holidays or since our break is I think it was last weekend I recorded with a couple guys. One of them's Tyler, who's on 22 shots. The other's Dan, who not Dan Chase. It's a different Dan that sometimes he does the Sin Bin podcast, and I think he's been a guest on 22 Shots, but got together with them and a couple other guys, Mason and Tony, and we recorded a show that our top 10 2025 physical releases. And to clarify, that doesn't necessarily mean the movie has to be a 2025 movie, just the physical release. For me, it's going to be all 4Ks because I'm kind of one of those weirdos that once the new medium or format comes out, I rarely like buy from like previous formats. So all my picks were 4Ks, but there's a good mix in there of like box sets and Blu-rays and 4Ks from various people. So that was kind of cool. Like I did the show and I kind of went into it saying like I still don't really consider myself a full-fledged collector, but in the past year, I would say I bought more than I have like in the last handful of years. So that was a fun time. It was one of the longer shows I've done in a while, just because I think there was like 4 or 5 of us. So that's I don't even know the name of the show because I don't know if Dan's who put it together if he does like a regular show or if he just kind of like uploads random things. But I did share a link to it on the group page, so if that sounds interesting to anyone, it can be found there. Um, and then our next episode, well, we might have two next episodes. The regular scheduled 2026 episode, I'm assuming, is going to be on Primate. Are we all in agreement on that? Because that's what comes out this week.
I guess.
Yeah. Right now, it's sitting at 92% on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, I don't know if that's a lack of reviews because it's still only the Monday of the week it comes out.
That's just That's just the director's family who's
Probably, or the primate actor from the actual movie. So yeah, that's probably the next episode, and then along with, I think we're gonna try to get in the top 10 show this upcoming weekend. So look for that as well. That one I actually might record first, just kind of depending on our days and like when we all see Primate and all that stuff. So the combination of those two sometime in the upcoming week. So look for those. And then besides that, yeah, we got horror releases every week in January. So we're coming out of the gate, going to the theater a lot. So it's a good thing.
Yeah. I think we got a couple next week too with the Bone Temple, and I saw another one that comes out the same day as the Bone Temple. I think the Night Patrol, something like that, maybe.
There's also one called like the Iron Lung. I think it's like a sci-fi horror in space.
I think that one's out at the end of the month though.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it might not be next week, but the week after.
Yeah. Next week is next week is Bone Temple and Night Patrol, or whatever the name of that other movie is. Yeah. Primate this week, and I mean, it's going to be a busy January, which I'm down for. Since I'm going to have more free time from my job, I'll actually get to go see a movie more than once again. It's been a while since I've gotten a chance to see a movie twice in the theater, so I can really get down on my review. But hopefully the gods will smile upon me and give me more free time moving forward.
Yeah. I was able to see a lot over the holidays, not horror specific, but just other stuff in the theater. So it was a productive movie watching.
Ah, man, the only non-horror I saw in December was Sisu, The Road to Revenge. That was about it.
Nice.
Which I did love, of course. So.
Oh, very enjoyable. Yeah.
Oh, hey, Nazi killing fun, buddy. Best part of Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Yeah. It's a movie that it's like you all saw the first one, right? So you know what you're here for. Okay, we're going to give it to you.
With a little bit more star power too in the second one. So that was nice.
Yep. Cool. All right. Well, we'll be back with lots of stuff in the upcoming week. So, and give us some feedback if you want on the group page, on the YouTube page, anywhere, email. It's all in the show notes. So with that, we're going to close this episode out. Let's say bye to the listeners.
Later.
Don't piss off sleeping zombies.
Let them sleep.